Welcome to Big Talk Little Greek. Today we have a little bit of a different type of episode. We're doing a bonus episode about the coronavirus because basically we found that there's a need to talk about it. So I'm here with my husband, Voss Bogdanoff.
Hey.
And we have a list of topics that we want to cover. And I think that what's happened is we just realized that we're at home talking about these topics and they're really intense and they're scary and they're affecting us a lot. But
Well, not just talking about it, but also experiencing a lot of these same, everything from the emotional side of it to trying to rack our brains around everything that's going on.
Right. And then we thought, you know what? Well, let's release this conversation because, you know, we want other people who maybe don't have someone to talk to or maybe are feeling these things but can't identify them themselves to have an opportunity to do so.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and this is not about instilling fear or jumping onto the bandwagon of panic. It's not about that. It's just taking a step back and looking at it for what it really is and realizing that we are in the midst of a massive change.
Yeah.
And how to basically prepare ourselves for the reality that the shift is happening. It's happening now.
Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is, just the fear and anxiety I'm really pregnant. I'm like 8 months pregnant. So I think I'm a little more, I feel a little more prone to being a little emotional. I don't cry a lot. Like I don't find myself crying. It's not that. It's not like an emotionalism. It's more the fear and the panic. I think because when you're pregnant, you already have all these hormones that are preparing you for baby to come, and you're trying, your biggest thing is safety. You're trying to make sure that this is a safe place for the baby to...
You're in a place of nesting. You're just like, okay, how do I prepare a safe, comfortable place for my baby to come into the world? And
like 4 years or 3.5 years ago when McCoy was born, I was, my biggest concern was I didn't like our couch. Do you remember that?
I do remember
how upset I got. I thought the living room was ugly.
Yeah.
And we had to go out and buy, you told me we had a $0 budget. Right. So we basically spent
which we did
an entire day redoing the living room with paint we found in the garage. And just, we looked for someone gave us a free couch. I mean, that was my biggest concern then. And now my concern is just so different because I'm looking at, what's going on in the medical world. They're changing a lot of laws and policies when it comes to being in the birthing room, which I have C-section. So, whether or not you can even be in the surgery room with me, who can come see the baby, if anyone can come see the baby. So all those things are shifting and changing in my world. So it's no longer about a couch.
Right. No, it's got a lot bigger. It's got a little bit more intense.
Right.
And so, the fear, the fear is real. The fear is definitely there. And how do we deal with that fear, right? And how do we work around that?
Well, I find when I wake up, a lot of times I wake up feeling anxious. I'm already feeling like a little bit of a heaviness about the day. Yeah. I know you are too at times. And it's kind of like you're trying to plan the day and you're like, we've got 2 little ones. So we're like, okay, well, let's get up and eat. Let's try to get them. I think our discussion is usually like, let's try to get them outside at least once today.
Yeah.
But that and trying to get them in activity, trying to, make sure that for them, their environment is playful and fun and has a little bit of normalcy. But that's not that easy because we're both fighting depression.
Yeah. Being at home, has its benefits, definitely.
Yeah.
We're all in that shelter in place order right now and have been for going on 10, 12 days or something like that.
I don't even know anymore.
It's kind of all blurred together.
Right.
What day was it the other day? You're like, it's Tuesday. It's like, no, babe, it's Thursday. It's everything's just blurred together. Lines have all blurred completely. And realizing that the good side is we're spending a lot more time with our kids.
Yeah, they're having a blast.
Yeah, this is great for them. They're not going to remember any of the bad stuff. And that's something I just want to encourage too. And I keep telling you that over and over again. It's like, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. Humanity is going to get through this. Our community is going to get through this. It's going to be okay on the other side. Now, it's not going to be the same.
I don't like that it's not going to be the same. And telling me, we were having an argument about this yesterday, telling me it's going to be okay makes me feel worse.
Right.
Because I don't like being told it's going to be fine. sounds
That's the thing. I'm not saying it's going to be fine. I'm just saying
right.
we're going to survive this. But I am saying that we've
We're
lived.
going to be alive on the other side, but
It's not just being alive. I think in some ways we're going to get stronger for it
Okay.
as individuals, as people.
I can take that as a benefit.
Now that said, we actually have to work through it. This is something to work through, because not allowing ourselves to be succumb to the depression, the anxiety, the fear, making rash decisions. Right.
Yeah, but let's really talk about what it really feels like. Like you're at home, right? We've already
Right.
been cleaning, and I don't even know how many times we've cleaned this house.
Man, the
It's
house
so
is getting really clean. This is really good.
We've all had good, eaten lots of food, full meals.
Probably eating a little too much
Probably eating way too much.
on my end anyways.
But like there are what about the in-between times when we're not up and cleaning?
That's true.
I feel like a gloominess, and the kids are fine. They're playing. They're having fun. We're doing puzzles. We're doing games.
Yeah, but how many days were there where neither one of us wanted to get up and do anything?
Yeah.
Or you're just sitting on the couch, you're like, I just feel completely drained and depressed.
I've taken so many naps, and some of them are pregnancy naps, and some of them are boredom naps, and some of them are depression naps.
Right.
Where I literally just feel so, I don't feel any joy during the day, so I'm feeling so sad. I just want to go to sleep. And we've, because we're both here, we can trade off doing depression naps. Like, it's your turn to go take a nap. And sometimes it's just falling asleep randomly.
You already had the chance to take a nap. Now it's my turn. You could take care of the kids.
I know, right?
Yeah.
We're always like trading children back and forth.
I know.
But there's this like sense of debilitating fear that just comes over you. And I say it like that because I've finally realized what it was. I think for a while I thought it was boredom. And I thought I just needed to, get up and move. Like Saturday we did a big project and that felt really good. But the next day I didn't feel like doing a project.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I could just get up and do a project again, The next day I just honestly felt like I didn't want to do anything. And all I wanted to do was like do the bare minimum of keeping our family alive.
Well, and also at the same time trying to work from home. I mean,
oh yeah, that's been really rough.
My business is a construction-based business, so a lot of our work is in the field. I found myself in a weird position where we're actually in between large projects, and we actually faced some delays on some projects because of the corona thing. And so I'm at home, and it's a great opportunity to do some catch-up on some paperwork, to do some marketing, to work on some online website stuff that we've been meaning to do for a while.
But that's hard to do with a 1-year-old in your lap.
Oh, it's incredibly difficult. I mean, literally the other night we were thinking about, or the other morning, you and I were sitting here and we're trying to work, and you were helping me out, and we were building this spreadsheet and filling it out with information. And literally, it felt like I had two monkeys climbing on me. It's like a 3-year-old on my lap and a 1-year-old on my arm. It's like, and I can't focus. I can't get in my flow state. I'm like, I just want to sit here and focus and do what I want to do. Like I envision what I need to accomplish in the next hour, 3 hours, or whatever. And it's like, I mean, and that alone can be so frustrating on top of all the other emotions that we're experiencing, right? So you're like, okay, I'm going to just throw myself into my work. I'm going to try to like get this done.
Right.
So I don't have to think about all the problems that are happening, or like I try to control the outcome, right?
Right.
And then, now you got the little kids climbing on you. You're like,
and the only tool we have is Frozen 2 because they're obsessed with it right now. And we've seen it 30 times in a week and a half. And that's the only thing right now that'll take their attention, where that we can be like, okay, time to watch. Well, McCoy calls it Another Elsa.
Another Elsa.
That's Frozen.
Another Elsa's played so many times. I feel like throughout the day, course of the day, like a random Frozen song starts playing in my head.
Oh, constant! I wake up to Frozen music in my head every night, throughout the night.
Every night, or throughout the night?
All throughout the night, every night, all throughout the night. It just plays, never ends.
Yeah.
Well, and I think what was frustrating in the beginning too is that I was starting to feel really sad and depressed, and me, I want to talk about it. That's how I deal with my feelings, is I want to talk, and you didn't want to talk. You were kind of closed, and you were just like kind of distant, and it was like having a zombie in the house for a little bit.
Okay, it wasn't that bad.
Try living with a zombie. It's hard.
I was trying to be strong for you.
No, you weren't. No, that's very. I'm trying to be real about it. That's real. You were trying to be strong, and your interpretation of strength was to not show how scared you were, and how much this was. Show no emotion. Show no emotion, and you were trying really hard not to show fear, because you thought that would make me feel better. And then I just was like, what did I tell you the other day? I said, right now I feel like I'm in a deep, dark hole, And you're looking down the hole and you're like, hey, it's kind of dark down there. It's not that dark though. You're fine. And I was like, I don't need you to yell at the top of the hole. This is from an illustration by Brene Brown, by the way, that I'm fine and everything's okay. And that I'm really not in a hole. I really need you to just climb down in the hole and sit next to me and tell me that you're here with me and that it is dark, but I'm not alone.
Welcome to the hole, everybody. Welcome to the hole. That's basically what this episode is. Climbing in the hole.
And really for me, it was like, I just needed to know that it was okay that I felt the way I was feeling. It was okay that I felt sad and depressed, that I was bouncing. Like sometimes I would feel really depressed and sometimes I would feel really anxious and then sometimes I'd feel fine. And that's the hard part is like, there's this constant bouncing that happens where I just, sometimes it feels like all of a sudden I'm doing a task and then this weight comes over me and I can't function anymore. And that's the reality of what's happening is like because we can't, because in my mind, I can't seem to process everything to like a clean slate where it's like, okay, this is the solution. This is what we're going to do. This is where everything's going. I'm going to be okay because everything just feels so unknown. I feel like I'm stuck in a rat thingy. What's the round thing that rats race on?
What's it called?
We're going to call it the round rat thingy.
The round rat thing.
I can't think of what it's called.
I can't think of it either. No, I picked up on your
pregnancy brain?
Yeah, pregnancy brain. Not able to remember certain things. It'll come to me and then I'll randomly spurt it out halfway through the episode here.
Okay.
So, well, one thing you mentioned earlier about, so being on the outside of the hole, right?
Yeah.
Not wanting to enter into it. The reality is we're all in there anyway and already.
Oh, we're already
The difference is that what are we telling ourselves, right?
Right.
And how are we dealing with it? Because if we really stop to think about it, everything is in this, it's in the state of flux, in the state of motion, right? And everything from the economy to our jobs, to the community around us. I mean, here we're sitting here on a Sunday afternoon. We haven't been to church in 2 weeks, not because we didn't get up and go, but because it's shut down. I mean, even the other events that happen on the weekends or the weekdays, we're not going to them. I mean, it's eerie. You drive by. The other day we drove by a parking lot where there's like a Home Goods and a Dick's Sporting Goods and like a bunch, and it's like the parking lot's empty and it's a Saturday afternoon. Most days that's like packed.
Right.
You know, you drive to a Costco and there's like a queue line out front to get inside a Costco.
Which we checked out just to check out.
And then we drove away. We're like,
drove away.
Not going to that queue line.
Not going in the queue line.
The queue line looks worse than going into Costco on a Saturday afternoon. But the thing is that these are all weird changes that have happened.
Yeah.
Right? Going into the store and realizing that, there's a bunch of food items that you normally would buy. It just aren't there.
We literally are on our last 2 rolls of toilet paper. Yeah. And I think we've gone to 3 stores.
Shout out to all those hoarders out there.
We've gone to 3 stores and every time you're like, yeah, they didn't have any. And I'm like, okay, well, the good thing is only 2 of us use toilet paper because McCoy is potty trained, but we use wipes for him.
Yeah, but we're going to run out of wipes at some point too.
No, I pre-bought those.
Oh, very good.
But yeah, those are realities that we're dealing with right now. And I think it messes with my head a little bit.
Yeah.
Because of the I think that was the first thing that I realized made me feel scared before the lockdown even happened. And I was kind of like in that group of people who were watching it all happen on the news, listening, seeing people post about it. And I was like in that category of people who were like, we're just not going to react. We're not going to buy into any of the fear. We're not going out shopping yet. We're just going to see what happens.
Well,
and then
I remember going back to, it was like beginning of February. And I mentioned this yesterday. I was like, remember back in the beginning of February when one morning I turned on the news and they were showing pictures of what's happening in China.
Yeah, and it felt so far away.
You're like, what the heck is happening in China? I'm like, yeah, they're in complete lockdown. You had no idea. You're like, what's going on in China?
Because I don't watch the news.
And I was like, yeah, they're in complete lockdown. This is getting real. And now we're living in what China had 2 months ago.
Right.
Right. And it's like, it was hard to believe that China was going through that. It's like, what, they shut their whole country down? People are staying in their homes? Like, what that's crazy. And
China, what are they doing over there? And now we're doing it.
Now we're doing it.
Yeah.
And it feels a little unreal.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I'm bringing that up too is just because tapping into what I keep trying, I kind of circling around it, right? Like I circle around the hole. Yeah. And it's like, okay, this is the topic that's at hand. That let's have our eyes opened.
Right.
Right. Let's look at this for what it is. and it's going to be different. It's going to really change from where we were to where we're going. And that brings out a lot of it brings out like a whole plethora of emotions, right? Everything from the fear to the helplessness to feeling like, okay, you don't have the control. Now it's because, we're trying to control. We're trying to control the outcome. Now the outcomes can be different.
Right. Like normally when business would be bad for you, you just need to go out and hustle. You can't even go outside and really work.
Right. I mean,
you're not even allowed to work.
How many places have I called in the last week? And it's like they're not even answering their phones because they're not even in their offices.
Right.
Right. It's like
you can't hustle your way out of this, and you're used to working really hard.
Yeah. Well, and okay, that's one aspect of it, but it's just everything else, and realizing that we're now living a historical moment. Even this is going to be something that's going to be written down in the history books. The day the world stood still, literally, it's like the entire world is shut down. The economy is completely shut down.
Can we talk about the people who don't want to believe that anything's really happening? Like I've had people tell me, "Oh yeah, you know what? I don't really think anything's going to change. This is all going to go back." So and so says this is just a moment, and then in 2 weeks everything will be up and running again. Like as if it's like we're just like, I think of like a circus when you turn on the lighty thing and everything's like, and all the music comes on and everything's like gonna be right back to where it was. I don't feel like it is, and that's really bothering me because I'm like, we can't go through what we've gone through as an economy or as a people, and then
that's
just
the thing about the unknown.
Hit the playback button.
Right. That's the thing about the unknown. We don't know exactly how it's going to play out. I mean, it might recover much better, much faster than we expect. That'd be awesome. That'd be a fantastic outcome. But something that we all remember was 2008. Right. We all lived through 2008 with it's all in our, within our level of memory. It's not they didn't happen to our parents, that happened to us. Some of us happened to our parents, but it was like we lived through it. We have direct memory of how it impacted our families, how it impacted a lot of people that we knew.
Right.
And 2008 was the result of an economy crash, specifically within the mortgage market, specifically with people's homes, right?
Right.
A lot of people lost homes in 2008. We all know somebody or know a lot of people that lost homes, that had to declare bankruptcy, lost their jobs. I know we were doing some research the other day, and we found some articles on just, where we're in comparison to where we were to where we're at. And, looking at how, for example, the GDP, right? So if you go down to that article, pull it up right here. She has it on the laptop. So if you pull up like the GDP, it shrank by 27% in the Great Depression, right? And then they're saying that it shrank by 5% during the Great Recession, 2008, 2007. GDP is like the gross domestic product, how much like the economy shrank
as a whole
during that time, right?
For America,
yeah.
For people like me who don't know what this means, for America.
Which it's like, okay, okay, what's that exactly mean? Well, just they're saying right now for this month alone. I mean, I was reading an article in was it Fortune magazine? They were talking about they were interviewing one of the Federal Reserve Bank presidents, and he's saying that they're expecting a 50% drop in GDP in the next month, right? So that's, I mean, granted, that's just for the next quarter. That's not necessarily the whole time, but still, that's going to be a massive impact. And they're also expecting 30% unemployment. And
Fresno alone, because I was reading an article.
Right.
I never do that, but now I do that. Fresno alone was at an all-time high for employment.
Yeah.
And we were seeing the most employed time we'd ever seen.
Well, across the country.
Across the country, but for our area specifically. And now, 30%.
So, I mean, why is it important to look at this stuff? It's like, it's not to like feed into the fear. It's like, oh my gosh, all these bad things are happening. But it's like realizing that this very well will look a lot like 2008, if not maybe a little better, maybe a little worse. We don't know, right? But we do know that it's going to be an impact.
Well, it feels like a tidal wave to me. It's like first when you have a tidal wave, like you have the initial wave that hits, and that seems like the scariest part.
Yeah.
But then you have water damage. You have loss of food resources. There's all these losses that you have because basically everything has been flooded and everything's been damaged. You have this kind of like ending resource loss.
When you have a chain reaction.
A chain. That's what thank you for trying thinking. Now, if we could just remember what the rat thingy was.
I still remember. Dang,
I still
doesn't come to mind.
But this is a chain reaction that's happening around the world. It's not even just here.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting a snapshot of Fresno, Clovis, but this is happening everywhere.
Well, and also how fast this has happened, right?
Right.
So this happened incredibly fast in comparison to, like, if you look at what happened in 2008, I think in over like 16 months, the recession happened. And we're not done yet. This
Right.
might still be an effect that we're going to see for the next 16 months going down. It's possible. But what we have seen is that it crashed so rapidly, so fast. It's like literally
It's
overnight.
been a month.
It's been a month.
Well, a month and a half, yeah.
And the economy's crashed almost the same as it did in 2008 in the amount of that it's crashed, right? Like if you could pull that information up. So like from 2000, so the Great Recession saw 49% over a period of 16 months. This is Forbes magazine again. And then in the comparison, the Dow has fallen 28% over the coronavirus crisis between February and March. So over 1 month, it's dropped 28%.
Right, and that's happened so quick. We were just talking about this the other day, that like people have really only experienced maybe one paycheck loss.
Yeah.
And this is like maybe their second. The first, we were just saying the other day, it's going to be the first on Monday, Tuesday. And who can pay rent?
Yeah.
How many people can really afford to pay their rent with loss of income?
Right.
And then what happens when all those bills, I know a lot of big companies like PG&E and the water bill and City of Clovis, they're freezing bills. But my big question is, like, are they freezing them? Is it just for a month? Or are they expecting?
No, a lot of them are deferring it.
So that means
well, like
that
I
they
saw
do
the state
have
of
to pay
California froze all evictions, right?
Right.
And put into place basically allowing, I think, over the course of 6 months. So after the crisis is basically officially over,
Yeah.
right? You have 6 months to pay back the deferred rent.
Yeah, how do people do that?
It's gonna be really difficult.
That's a
So
lot of
it's
debt
not like
to
it's not like you're
accrue.
just like not paying your rent and it's gone.
Right, like,
No,
yay, no
you're
rent
still
for
gonna have to
April.
pay it, but you're gonna have to pay it later. So
Right, which
this
is
is
like,
gonna affect
we
landlords.
talked about that. We said, do we pay our rent? And you were like, yeah, we do, because I don't want to have to pay it later.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't pay it now and then that's over and then we get to skip it. It's not a skip.
Right.
It's a deferred.
Yeah, you're gonna pay it sooner or later anyway, and it's the reality is that this is gonna affect everybody in the rental market. It's gonna affect the landlords.
Right.
It's putting tenants in a position where they're collecting more debt.
Right.
I'm not sure what's gonna happen to mortgages. And mortgages, they're all talking about deferring mortgage payments because you're right. I mean, the first is tomorrow, and I think that's gonna be really the first paycheck period that everybody's actually missed.
Right.
I mean,
Unless you're a...
Some people have missed maybe already last paycheck period, but it's like, I mean, if you're twice a month, basically
Right.
the first this is gonna be the first one's like, there's a lot of people are not. They might still have a job,
Right.
but they got laid off.
This is the first one it's going to hurt.
Yeah,
That's my opinion.
yeah.
It's going to hurt this
but
time.
this is during the shutdown, right? So all the restaurants
Right.
that were shut down 12, 13 days ago,
Right.
they're still gonna be shut down for. They're saying hopefully, and they're gonna open up in the next couple of weeks, but we don't know. Those people are not making any of their money that they
Right.
don't make, and they're all gonna have the massive.
And what do you say? They can never go back and remake that money.
No, you can't.
You can't retroactively make money
No,
that
I mean,
you weren't available for.
Yeah, I mean, and the government's putting out this big help package, which is awesome in one sense. It's like, okay, great, this is gonna be a huge help, but the reality is, I'm a libertarian type of guy when it comes to the government. I really don't like huge government programs that basically put the government in a position where it helps everybody or makes the government the solver of problems, especially for finances, because government doesn't make any money. The government literally just takes our money and redistributes it. The government doesn't have an endless amount of cash.
So so the question is, how does that get paid back?
Well, we're going to pay it back.
We're gonna
Nothing's
pay
for
it-
free.
So,
So I mean,
again, this is another deferment. This is why it feels a little freaky, because this is all everything's being deferred. All the money and everything's being
just look at
deferred.
this. I mean, look at the elections, right? That we're still in. Like, we've all kind of forgotten about that. There's a presidential election at the end of this year, right? But the reality is that we were looking in comparison, like Bernie Sanders. Like, Bernie Sanders he's a socialist, and he wants to spend a lot of money. He wants the government to put all these programs out there to put people in a financially better position, right? So, everything from welfare to unemployment to paying off your loans, forgiving your government, your student loans and things like this, right? And it's like all these big, and all of us are like, oh my gosh, she's crazy. That's way too much money, right?
Right.
And now all of a sudden we find the government just did it. and we all supported it in a sense.
Right.
Right?
Because
But we're in a tragedy. But like, what's to say that this is not going to stay this way?
Yeah.
Right. And so that's what I look at. It's like, now that the government's gone here, which it's never gone there before.
Right.
There's no government ever in the history of mankind has spent this kind of money as a stimulus on a crisis. It's never happened. I mean, we're talking like, it's like, I think it's a combination of the stimulus bill that they just passed in the House and what the Fed is doing to buy back debt notes and to basically print more money. It's like $6 trillion.
Okay, really quick, I want to go back to information. So something else that we looked up. It took the market 25 years to recover after the Great Depression.
Right. That was back in the 30s.
That was back in the 30s, yeah. In comparison, it took 4 years from the Great Recession of 2008 to find a similar amount of time from the 2000s crash. That's a long period of time. And I want to go back up to what we were talking about before, is like, that's what makes me realize like that this is not over. This is not a blip that we're going through. This is something that's going to continue to affect our world.
Yeah.
And what does that do to me as, a young mother with 3 little kids, our home, our family?
Yeah.
What does that do to dreams that you and I have had about building something, building your business large? What does it do to people who have we've all gotten to a certain place? I feel like in 2008, you were right. It was like more of my parents' time. Where like I was like only a few years out of high school. So it really didn't affect me personally, except for seeing my parents be stressed out and panicked. But this is affecting like our home now.
Mm-hmm.
And we've gotten to a place where it's like we were just feeling really good about where we were. We were feeling like kind of ahead above
momentum.
Water. Yeah, the business was building momentum. And I was actually kind of feeling like this last, even 8 months before all this happened, like, wow, things are kind of easy. And then I would catch myself being like, usually when I think things are easy, really hard things come. I'm going to stop thinking about how easy things are.
Right.
But it did kind of feel a little like everyone was going through an easy time in general.
Especially looking back at, and I think that more and more as we move forward, we're going to be looking back at, wow, we really had a lot of privilege. We really had a pretty good thing going on, and we didn't realize it until now it's all gone.
Right. And we don't know what the after effects, I'm talking about us personally on our family, because I tend to think really small. I tend to think about like what we're dealing with. You tend to be the one that like looks at the world view and the broader picture. And I'm like, how are we going to feed our children? How are we going to clothe our children? Those things are now starting to be affected in my head.
Yeah. And I feel like we keep oscillating back and forth between like the good side of this and the bad side of this, right?
I'm not oscillating.
I am. I keep looking, like I look out the window right now as we're talking. There's like a kid on his bicycle, and I'm just like, the good side of this, I've seen so many people outside on their bikes and taking walks with their families.
Right. Spending time with the family.
And it's like, that's a good side of it.
Right.
The bad side of it, it feels a little surreal.
It does.
Right. This is the part that's like, okay, this is a little bit weird, right? We're not going to stay here. Everybody can't stay home for like the unforeseeable future. People have to go back to work. I have to go back to work. I told you this morning, I was like, I am so ready to go back to work. Like, I'm ready to go put in a 16-hour day. I don't care.
You're like, I'm going to go to the shop and clean.
Like,
I just clean a shop.
I got to do something. Like, I got to work because it's driving me a little bonkers. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, the reality is that, and this is going back to the economy side of it. This is the bad side, is that the time lost right now economically, sitting at home, the economy of everybody sitting at home, businesses not working, and like you mentioned earlier, that time can't be taken back. We can't rewind. And so the loss of production, it's gone.
Right. All those factories that are shut down.
Factories are shut down. Product that didn't sell, yes, we're going to continue selling in the future, right? Factories can come back online. Restaurants are going to keep open up again and go back online and keep selling. But this is going to be forever like a little black mark on their balance sheet. It's like for the month of March, 0 sales. It's
go over really quick. People filing for unemployment. What was the amount?
I haven't looked at it again, but the other day I saw an article that came out that said in 1 week alone, 3.8 million people applied for unemployment, which is insane. Like going back to 2008, and that's like that's a big recession, right? was like 650,000, just under 700,000.
Wow.
Filed for unemployment in the same, like, and I'm not sure if that was over the course of the whole time. No, it wasn't the course of the whole time, because unemployment went pretty high during the Great Recession. I think it was like up 20%.
Right.
At one point. But it was like ridiculously, like it was like 3 times the amount in 1 week that has ever been filed.
Right.
You know?
Because so many, because we've never had a full shutdown before.
Yeah. And that's true. And so there's a lot of businesses that shut down this time that never have shut down before.
Right.
Right. So, and a lot of these jobs may come back. I mean, it's not like those jobs are gone forever by no means. I mean,
but we were talking about this. Some of these businesses will not survive this. And that's the hard part, is that just because you pause time, our rent for the shop is still due.
Yeah.
All our overhead is still
running.
due, is still running.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any income this month as far as the business. So it puts this forever, like you said, black mark on everyone. And the question is, we were, kind of relaying, is like, our business is small enough where the impact can be small enough on us where it really only affects us. If we had a construction crew of 40 guys, let's say, we had to lay off 40 people, you can't recover from that immediately, or maybe at all.
Yeah, it's a lot harder. I mean, I think the impact on small businesses across this country, really across the world, but really across this country, is the big unknown factor. Right. So we don't know how many small businesses are going to recover, how many are going to just completely disappear. Right. Close the doors, and they're not going to ever open again. It really depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how soon we get up and going, how well people respond to the new opening. Because the reality is that the underlying thing that's driving all of this is an invisible enemy. Right.
That we all can't and don't know how to fight all of them by ourselves.
Well, the one thing we do know is the reason why we're all shut down is because we're fighting it by staying away from each other. Right. And this virus is indiscriminate. It's not going to care that we shut down for 2 weeks and then we're going to come back and we're all going to go back to work. Like, I don't see it coming back the same, because people aren't going to want to go to sit in restaurants, because they just basically sat in their homes like, okay, I'm staying away from a virus. The virus is not going to be like, okay, you stayed home, so I'm not going to infect you now. Right. It doesn't work that way. So people are going to want to they're not going to want to go to restaurants.
Well, yeah, there's going to still be like a residual fear of doing public things. A lot
of people are going to stay away. They're going to make the decision like, do I need to go to Ross right now and go buy some pants, or can I just buy those on Amazon and avoid the risk? Yeah. Right. And so that's going to be a huge factor. That's why I keep saying, like, we got to have our eyes open. This is not going to be that. I just can't foresee it being that simple coming out of it. It's just there's going to be a lot of factors in place. And I mean, shoot.
I think about, so I'm going to interrupt you a little bit. So I think there's there's an emotional toll that happens. Yeah. I think that some people are keeping themselves a little bit in denial, and maybe as like a safety precaution, because they really don't want to think about how hard this is, or how.
Well, we don't want to panic either.
Don't want to panic. You know, there's a little bit of that. And there's people like me who don't have a safety precaution of denial. I don't think I have any denial in me. I am like full blown feeling it all the time. Again, I'm pregnant, but that's kind of more my personality as well, is I'm always way more comfortable feeling everything than pretending like things aren't happening. And, for people like me, I'm always pretty much aware of how I'm feeling. And I know there are times where I just feel like frustrated. I just feel so frustrated. I feel angry, but I can't even figure out what I'm angry about. I just feel angry. I feel mostly the fact that I can't control any of this makes me feel angry. It makes me feel agitated. And I think having both of us home has been helpful, because we can tell when the other person's getting frustrated and maybe being a little, harsh on the kids. And we're like, hey, why don't you go sit down? I'm gonna take care of bath time, or I'm gonna take care of dinner. Right. We're here for each other. But I don't think that's all going to just go away once this is over. I think this is going to continue to unfold, and that's going to affect us. So we've been really conscious of that and how we are acting around the kids, because, we don't want them to be affected. Our kids are also really small. They don't know what coronavirus is.
Yeah, they're not going to remember this.
Right.
I mean, we could tell them the story someday down the road, but they're not going to remember. As far as they know, this has just been a really long weekend.
Right. Our oldest is 3.5, and he heard the word coronavirus, and he was like, "Mommy, I have coronavirus." I'm like, "No, you don't." But he doesn't know what that means.
Right.
So, but for us, it's a little different. I imagine how different it is for parents who have kids that are not going back to school.
Yeah. Older kids
who are going to be homeschooled. I mean, I just heard the other day that schools are being shut down till May. And I mean, our brother-in-law was saying the other day, it's like, well, yeah, but they're also passing a policy that's like, when the kids do come back, if they come back in May, we're not to apply any pressure on them. So no major testing, nothing that will cause stress or anxiety. So he's like, so basically coming back for a month to do nothing, but like babysit them so their parents can work. It's not like to come back and like learn something.
Right.
And, that's May though. I mean, that's
still a month away.
That's still a month away. And that's still parents who have to stay home and watch those kids, and they can't go back to work.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of the effects of single parents, that how scary that is for them if they've got, kids that they need to be home with, or friends of ours who have little ones who can't, they can't afford daycares or nannies anymore, and they have to stay home with those kids as well. They can't work either.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying, I mean, I don't mean to be, I'm kind of the monger in this conversation, but.
The monger? What does that mean?
Isn't it? There's a saying called like the monger of bad news, or no, I'm making things up again.
Yeah, you're making it up. That's okay.
The bear.
It's kind of adorable. We just let it slide.
Fearmonger. That's what I was. Fearmonger. That's a real thing.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
Okay, so I'm kind of the fearmonger right now.
The monger of bad news. I can see how you tie those two.
You tend to be one that looks a little bit more on the bright side. I am not bright side today. Today is a not bright side. I'm dark whole day. But I'm just realizing how it's affecting everybody, and it feels strange right now because it's all so new. But I think the prolonged effect is what's getting to me.
Yeah.
Is that I don't know. So
you keep stopping looking at the future, the long-term picture, and that's what's kind of getting to you more than the current.
Yes. I'm a girl. That's what we do. We project to the future. We're like playing things out.
Right.
I don't know if men do that the same way that women do.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I also can see the future. Like, I'm playing out different scenarios in my head constantly.
Right.
Okay, what if this happens? Okay, well, what if that happens?
Right.
And trying to like position us, in the financially and like, even lifestyle wise, like what can we do to make things different? Like I was just thinking this morning, like, okay, what things can I cut back on? It's like, okay, well, what online subscription services can we cut back on?
You do this every time. You're always like, it's either Netflix or Disney. Pick one. One's leaving.
We were gonna have that conversation later on today. Don't worry.
Netflix is like $13. Don't bug me about $13.
Say that now. But no, I mean just trying to play out different strategies. Really,
yeah.
I'm more trying to be strategic.
Right.
So that's for me. It's like it's a giant game of risk. It's like, okay, that's how I look at it. A little bit more pragmatically, more taking that aspect of it, less the emotional toll side of it. And I think that's what you keep reminding me of. And I do a really bad job of a lot of times. It's like you like you mentioned earlier. It's like, you'll be breaking down and crying and be like, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine, everything's gonna be all right. Just hang in there. It's all gonna be good. Just listen to my words. And it's like, instead of actually going there with you. And you're right. I mean, it's like even now, like so resistant to be like, oh yeah, this really sucks. And then like going down there with you and you're just like, this is gonna be, this right now is really freaky.
Yes.
How much am I in denial of like, I'm not going to get sick. And if I get sick, I'll be fine. That's what I tell myself how many times over and over in my head. Like, even if I don't conscious of it, like, or I think of you or the kids, like, I don't even want to think about the fact that if you or the kids get this, that it's going to affect you negatively.
Right.
Like, I'm in denial. I'm like, we're going to be fine. Right. Or what if my parents get it, or somebody else that we know that's really close? Like, they're saying this group is over 60. It's like, we know a lot of people over 60.
Yeah. And
the further along we go in this, the more of a reality check it is. I mean, just you were telling me yesterday, somebody really well, they have a family member that, like, they're in a Zoom video chat group and they, like, came down. They like lost oxygen or something. You're telling
They
me
passed out. Yeah.
passed out, and then come to find out they do have the virus, and it's like
That felt the closest to home it's ever felt.
yeah. That I mean,
Even though I don't even know that person, it's a person I know really well that knows this person.
right, and that's
And it's in a different state. It still felt like it was my neighbor.
right.
And it
Well,
scared me.
and that's I mean because I think we can also picture that it could be our uncle
Right.
or our aunt or
Or
somebody
someone we know
that's
who,
really close
who could be affected.
and it's God willing that person will recover. We blessings to that person to recover fully. But it's just still it's and for everybody. I mean that's the thing. It's like we're starting to feel it. It's starting to feel a lot more real. Right.
Okay, so can we talk, since we've done so much of what's going on and how bad it is, can we talk about how we're going to get through this? I'm talking about emotionally, not financially, because I don't know. I don't have answers to that question. But how do we emotionally, what are some good things that we can practice to get through this? Because for me, okay, I'll talk for myself.
Talk for yourself. Yeah, talk to me.
Talking helps.
Okay. It does help, actually.
It does really
just
help
sitting down
to
and
talk
having this
about it.
conversation has been really helpful. Even you're going back to the facts. I'm sorry, trail off real quick, but
Yeah.
even reading the facts and looking at stuff, it helps. And I think that's why some people are obsessed with the news right now of like the coronavirus. It's like everything is about coronavirus. And shoot, we're sitting down talking about it. We're going to put this out there for people to listen to about the coronavirus. It's like,
Right.
because I think we need to process it for a certain part of us, our brain, our minds, ourselves. We need to process this information.
We do. Yeah. We have to do some form of processing, especially if you're feeling really, if you are feeling really gloomy, you're feeling, it's like that whole thing of like not being interested in things you're normally interested in. Well, I'm not doing any of the things I'm normally doing. So it's like, it's not that I'm not interested in going outside. It's that I can't go outside. I mean, I can go in my front yard, but that's, or my backyard. But it's not like I'm not interested in being social. It's I can't be social.
Right.
So that's, those feelings are different. But I'm noticing in myself, like I'm feeling these moments of like depression and anxiety, and I want to talk about it. I'm having a little struggle because sometimes when I text people, they're like, I'm really sorry. I'm just keeping busy, just trying to do projects. La, 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 la. And I don't know if that's how they really feel, but that's how it comes off. And I'm like, can we just talk about this? Can we just really talk about how scared we are? And I had a really good conversation, of course, with Whitney, because she's who I talked to about all my deep, dark feelings.
Yeah.
And it was like the first time I felt so much better.
Thank you, Whitney.
Thank you, Whitney. Because I was like, I just feel like, and we were just relating on so many levels. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you for going there with me, because I feel like the few times I've tried to really tell people how I'm really doing, it's over text, of course, but I feel like I'm getting a blank text stare. Like, oh, man, I'm sorry for you. It's probably because you're pregnant. And it's like, no, it's because I'm a human and everything's falling apart and nothing feels real anymore. And I don't know how to cope with this. I've never dealt with this before. So I don't have these like automatic coping mechanisms that, come up. It's just, I just all of a sudden just feel everything and I don't know what to do. So what can we do? So real talk is very helpful. And when somebody real talks to you, like, what do I always say? Like, don't just be like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Like, really talk to them. Say like, well, how are you feeling about that? What are some things you're experiencing or feeling? And be open to listening to people, because I feel like this might not recover right away. And if people are starting to feel down, it's going to continue and it's going to start affecting us.
Yeah.
What are other things we can do? Go outside when it's nice and shiny.
Well, yeah, but those are all like surface things, right?
Yeah.
So these are all the surface things that we can do to make ourselves feel better in the present. How can we really prepare ourselves for what could be coming in the future? I mean, I was, going back to Frozen too. What is Olaf saying there? Something like, all we can do is control the things we can. Something
all we can do is control the things we can control.
Yeah, and going back, Olaf. Thank you, Olaf.
Thanks, Olaf.
In some ways, that's really what it comes down to. There's so many things that are just the unknown. And it's really overwhelming to try to even start to think about it. Like, okay, I'm going to do this and this and this. Like, even when it comes to business, I think about, okay, there's got to be a lot of opportunities here too.
Right.
because there's going to be a lot of opportunities for it's like a giant reset button.
Yeah, the other day you were like, let's get into the medical field. I was like, what are we doing now?
I know nothing in the medical field. But no, the reality is this is a giant reset button.
Right.
So I'm a tangent again on like all the things that are happening economically and business wise. There's a lot of things that are going to be different. And there's going to be people that are going to go out of business. There's going to be opportunity for new people to go into that business, right?
Right.
I'm sorry. I know that's not your question. Your question was
how do we get through this?
How do we get through this?
What do we do on the hard days?
On the hard days?
Hopefully you have a person you can talk to.
I think that's really what it comes down to, is like just really being together.
We can't be together.
No, but you and I, like as a team, like you and I being really working together as a team, like husband and wife working together as a team.
If you're a single person, or if you're someone who lives alone, even, or if you're someone, reaching out to other
really
people.
Hard.
It's really hard. It's
really hard because, I mean, honestly, right now, if it wasn't for the fact that you and I, we're a team, and
we have two little tiny distractions.
Yeah, I mean, we're able to kind of keep each other in check, keep each other on task, keeping each other,
and even then, I feel like I'm struggling a lot, even with a teammate who is willing and open and who talks
being
to
gracious
me
to one another.
Gracious to one another, yeah. It's that it doesn't mean that it's all better. It actually is still really hard.
Yeah.
And we're in different places sometimes. Sometimes you're like feeling okay and I'm not feeling okay.
I think the reality is I don't really have that answer.
Oh, we don't have answers. Dang.
I'm like circling around. I'm like, no, I don't have an answer. All I can say is that this is really freaky. And I don't know. I'm a little scared, actually. Come to think of it, as I'm talking about it.
That's the first time you've admitted being scared. I feel so much better now that you're saying that, because usually you're like, it's gonna be fine. And I was like, if you tell me one more time, it's gonna be fine.
Yeah. I don't have the answer. Sorry.
I don't have answers either.
I mean, we've been doing a lot more prayer.
That's been the only helpful thing.
That's the only thing that we've really found a lot of peace and solace in. Is like praying together.
Yeah.
So if anybody that hears this out there, if you
have faith or don't have faith,
that's been really helpful for us.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been really helpful just to stop and just pray. And
that's the time when we're feeling like the heightened of anxiety, depression. Stopping to pray really helps that.
Yeah, it does. It makes a difference. And there's a certain peace that comes with prayer. That's really been the only solution.
Solution.
That's kind of like come out of the woodwork. I mean, other than that, just being gracious to one another, being gracious to people around us. I think I've noticed this. I was telling you yesterday. I was like, when I did have to go out to the store and such, it's like, it feels like people are a little bit more understanding and gracious towards one another. People are smiling a little more than normal. For example, I was at the gas station and I just struck up a conversation with the guy. I was paying for my gas and he was getting himself a coffee. And, it just felt a little different. Everything feels a little different. I think because everyone's in this little surreal place. People are being a little bit more interactive when they do see each other. Granted, everyone's like still keeping that weird like social distancing thing in place, but it's, I noticed people are raking their berries down. Even like the teller at the cash register was a little more chatty than normal.
But I also noticed that everywhere I don't go anywhere anymore, but in the very beginning, like before the lockdown, I noticed that everybody was talking about Corona no matter where I was.
Oh, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Non-stop.
Anytime you pass by a conversation, whether it was between strangers or between people who knew each other, it was everywhere we were going.
Yeah.
And that's that's kind of weird too, where it's like you can't even get away from it. Yeah.
It's like
social media is like
99%
about the coronavirus now. And it gets to the point where it's like, I was saying to you the other day, I was like, it's like everyone's on social media now because they're not at work, but yet there's not necessarily more participation. There's just all the content has changed to coronavirus. So it's like this weird feeling where you're like, it's like everyone's here, but nobody's talking. And we're all, the only people who are talking about this. And part of it is because that's all you do want to talk about. And it's like I say that to say it's confusing. And I try to have a stance on it sometimes where I'm like, today I'm not going to look at my phone today. But then it's like tomorrow I'm going to do it again because we can't all just completely isolate ourselves from what's going on.
Right.
So it's a kind of a day by day with how you're feeling.
Well, even, okay, so I want to loop back a little bit. You mentioned earlier about what can people do that don't have somebody to lean on? Because I was talking earlier, like a big help for us has been the fact we have each other.
Right.
Right. One of the things you just mentioned is like, yeah, we can be using those tools, social media. Mentioned Zoom. We tried that out the other day for the first time. That was pretty cool. Zoom works really well. But yeah, we have a lot of tools and a lot of people that we know that maybe that's the biggest thing is that we could do for each other, just reaching out to one another and just having those real conversations.
Yeah.
How many people are sitting at home right now that we know that just need a hello? Hey, how's it going? Talk to me about your life. Just that little connection.
The hard part is that like every time somebody does text or call, it's like I have nothing new to say. They're like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, well, there's this thing called the coronavirus going around. I don't know.
I know, but still, it's just that connection.
But
right?
I think, okay, let's say this. Maybe it's about being brave to have a real conversation and start the real conversation.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, how are you? Because that doesn't spark someone to just open up and say like, hey, I know you don't have anyone to talk to or you're living alone. Has that been really hard on you? Do you need to, is there anything that you need to talk about? Are you feeling sad at all? Like really opening up the doors to some of these more intense topics because I don't think people automatically open up.
No, I mean...
Unless they have a previous relationship with someone like Whitney. I know I can send her one time I send her like a picture of somebody wrapped in a burrito blanket and it was like an actual print of burrito.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, that's the happiest thing I've ever seen. It's like, I know she's just as like weird as me where I can send her weird stuff. And, but if you don't have that person that you can just like text weird things to or say how you're really feeling, then sometimes it's good to be the person who initiates those deeper conversations.
Well, I mean, you have a unique ability in that arena. I'm not as good at that as you are. I mean, you're really good at just going there.
Talking about it?
Yeah. I mean, you are the big talker.
I'm the big talker.
You don't do small talk at all. The ultimate big talker. And that's good. I mean, that's great. But for me, it's a little harder. It's a little harder to do that.
That's true.
It's a little harder to go deep. A lot of times I just want to, keep it light. And I think that's not necessarily always a bad thing. Sometimes, people do need to just keep it light, but they just need that connection.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I actually have not been very good at reaching out to people during this time. I've had more people texting me how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh gosh, I keep reminded every day but I was like that before this all happened because of the pregnancy and stuff. I've been like more antisocial because I'm tired like most of the days. So I don't know. I I have to challenge myself to do it more. I guess I'm saying.
I think we both need to do that. I mean, I definitely have a lot of room for improvement in that arena.
This feels really temporary at times, and so it feels like I don't have to make any major changes to myself. But I think I'm starting to realize that I'm going to have to adjust.
Yeah.
And who I am and what I'm expecting from myself every day.
Likewise.
And I think if I try to remain the same in all of this, it's going to be very isolating for me and people around me. So I guess part of it is just growth. I mean, we heard our sermon this morning from our church in North Point, and it really felt like a challenge to like, this is a storm that we cannot control and that we didn't cause. It's not like something that I did to my life, but it's the challenge is that it's going to force me and my character to be tested. And I'm either going to draw closer to God and allow it to change me, or I'm going to fight to stay the same and I'm going to kind of be miserable.
Yeah. No, and that's a really good point. I mean, as far as change, we are going to change from this.
Right.
Whether we consciously go there or we just allow it to happen to us. No matter what, we are going to be changed by this.
I feel like I told you the other day that the thing that bothers me the most is, part of you gets excited by change because you're like, new opportunities, everything's getting shooken up. You like to kind of, when everything's all shooken up, is that a word? Shooken up? It's weird. You like to be like the first one to run and find solutions. It's kind of exciting for you. Like, I'm going to be that guy that finds and figures out and I'm going to ride that wave. Okay, me, familiarity feels very comfortable for me and comforting to me. And I like, you know me.
Yeah.
I mean, what did you do the other day? You went and got like a sandwich for me at my favorite place and you messed up my order, which you always do. I don't understand you. And I was like, why did you get it with everything? I like two things.
I just pulled up.
I like two things, mayonnaise and lettuce. And you're like, I opened my sandwich, had every possible condiment, everything on it.
It was the everything sandwich. It was.
And I was like, why did you do that? You know,
I drew a blank.
You drew a blank. You do this with my sandwiches, and you know I love sandwiches. I don't get it. Okay. But I'm not trying to harp on you. But I'm trying to say that for me, I have this like mental struggle. Familiarity, what I'm expecting to happen, feels safe and good. And I like trying new things. So for this type of situation, it pulls me so far out of my comfort zone. And I was thinking this morning, I'm probably going to have to change a little in that way, where I base a lot of my feeling of safety on being able to predict things. So my safety has to be built on something else because I can't predict anything anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think for me, actually, one of the things I'm struggling with is what you mentioned about opportunity. It's like I actually struggling with a little bit of fear of loss. It's like, and I just needed to stop and take a breather and be like, breathe, look at everything, and just take a step back and be like, okay, this is all happening, and let's not be rash. Let's not be, let's not make any emotional decisions in the sense of like making any big changes,
right,
financially, or making big changes with our way our family structures. Like, just take a breather, take a step back, look at everything, pray about things. Try to make some adjustments on my, like, cause the reason why I'm saying that too, because it's for me, when I get in that mode, I not blank out, but like don't really pay attention to all the other stuff that's going on.
Right.
And right now I need to be paying most attention to you, to the kids, taking time to pay attention to myself and my internally, how I'm doing. Like we talked about at the beginning of the conversation. It's like, at the beginning I was just shut out, like emotionally just shutting out of the conversation and out of what's happening. And I was just like, head down, making this happen, doing what I got to do.
Yeah, you were just trying to make me not freak out.
Right. I was going to be like the wall.
Stop trying to make me not freak out. I'm going to freak out. You just need to help me get through it.
Right. And I feel like that's improving.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that I can continue to improve there. So yeah, that's where we're at today. That's
today. So, day 10 or 12 or 15. We don't know what day it is.
It's all blurred together. But the reality is this is where we're at. I hope that this conversation's helpful for somebody else. Some people are out there listening. If you want to just stop and take a listen to another thing about coronavirus, but this is how we're feeling. This is how we're doing, and some of the thoughts and it feels good to talk about it. It really does, and we appreciate people listening. It's good for us to talk about it because it helps get this stuff off our chest.
Right.
It's also helps to help kind of realize things. I would hope that for somebody else, my main thing is that like people just open your eyes and realize that this is real. This is happening. Don't be in denial, and then allow the work that needs to happen, and do the hard things that need to happen in your life right now to make the adjustments. And
talk about the things that are really going on in your head.
Yeah.
And don't just shut them out and pretend like everything's okay.
Yeah.
Because it will, like you said, it will eventually be okay. And we're not all contracting corona. That's not what we're all afraid of. But this is a huge change, and it's going to affect the way we all live.
Yeah.
And we have to adjust with it by realizing what's happening inside of us, recognizing the things that we're feeling, opening up to others about how we're feeling, and then in turn being there and available for people who maybe don't have someone to process it with.
There you go.
All right. That's all we're going to do.
That's it.
Hey, babe.
Yeah.
I love you.
Good.
You